Tell them that story you were telling me. Couple boys clock out about 5:35, trying to put a little hammer in their head. Standing in the liquor store staring at a fifth, but they picked up a handle instead. Hell right. Hell right. Hell right. Okay. Couple girls with their boots on, got their Bluetooth on, t-shirts saying go Sooners. Then the girl from the small town took off the old town, put on the little Hank Jr. Thank God. Hell right. She got all her rowdy friends coming over tonight. Hell right. Hell right. Everybody's throwing down on a Friday night somewhere in America. There's a bottle to burn and a fire to light. And you ain't done nothing if you did it halfway. If you're gonna raise hell, then you better damn raise hell right. Hell right. Hell right. There's a guitar on the ground that was making some sound till somebody pulled a hillbilly slip. Now there's fog on the window. She never would have kissed him if he didn't play a lick like this. Hell right. Hell right. Hell right. Hell right. Everybody's throwing down on a Friday night somewhere in America. There's a bottle to burn and a fire to light. And you ain't done nothing if you did it halfway. If you're gonna raise hell, then you better damn raise hell right. Hell right. Hell right. Now 7 a.m., damn if there ain't an empty handle on a square hay bale. Everybody's passed out drunk, but when they wake up, they're all gonna hurt like hell right. Yeah, boy. Hell right. Hell right. Everybody's throwing down on a Friday night somewhere in America. There's a bottle to burn and a fire to light. And you ain't done nothing if you did it halfway. If you're gonna raise hell, then you better damn raise hell right. Hell right. Hell right.
Introducing to you.
You're on House of Cards, live on Facebook and YouTube.
It's going down now.
Locked and loaded with the truth.
And you are listening to Buford's House of Cards on the Big Patriot Radio Network. All right. Hey, welcome, everybody. Glad to see you tonight. My name is Mike Covert, and I am your host tonight. A little bit different background, a little different setup. We're at an undisclosed location broadcasting this week. You are listening to the House of Cards. Welcome, 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 everyone on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and wherever else you're out there. We are broadcasting around the globe on BigPatriotRadio.com, simulcasting live right now. We've got people, hey, check this out. We've got people in South Carolina, North Carolina, West Virginia, Montana, of all places, New Mexico, Texas, and one lone soul in Massachusetts listening in. Hopefully that's the one lone soul that's conservative. Hey, don't forget, every night of the week, just about, we've got podcasts here on Big Patriot Radio. Mondays, we've got New America Movement with David and Jordan Cox at 7, and then again at 9 o'clock p.m. Tuesday night is the ever-popular Corey Allen in the Overton Report at 7, and then a repeat in the 8 o'clock hour sometime. Thursday nights, we're live right here with Big Patriot Radio and Buford's House of Cards. Sundays at 7 o'clock, it's Andrew Southwick. Happy birthday, by the way, Andrew. And Culture Crossroads, and then at 7 and at 8 o'clock is Frank Friedenauer and the Freedom Hour. All right. Big show tonight. Really big show. Number one most requested song this past week. Actually played again a little while ago. Luke Combs and Ain't Far From It. The number one most listening city. Again, Somerville and Hilton Head tied there for the lead. And Augusta, Georgia, first time on the charts in third.
Locked and loaded. Let's go. Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
Hey, don't forget, we're getting ready to get started, but don't forget, across the bottom of your screen, you see the ticker there, is how to get involved with us on our Patreon page. We're going to really explode that page up with special videos, special shows that the general public won't have access to. We ask you to join. Membership, $5, $10, $20, $25, whatever. It's all good, but it helps keep independent news and media alive. So check us out on patreon.com. It's safe, secure, and it's awesome. You'll love it. All right. Last week, we talked a lot about the South Carolina Constitution and the history of it. I had someone ask me, we were talking about history and some things that they were picking up along the line. And the subject of the Constitution came up. We carried you last week up to 1895. Prior to 1895, South Carolina had been governed, and this is going to be pretty quick because we've got a live guest coming on tonight. You don't want to miss that. And we've got some bombshells that we're going to let you know about that will shake you to the core, and you need to know about it. But anyway, prior to 1895, South Carolina had been governed by colonial charters, a colonial constitution, and 6, we'll call them regular constitutions. Those happened after independence. All right. We know that the 1895 South Carolina Constitution was, really created to exclude. This is the real reason. When you break it down, the real reason that it was created was to exclude Black South Carolinians, males, from politics. The Black codes would reemerge in 1895 or after, actually 1895, like in 1896 and forward. They emerged as Jim Crow. Moved to 1900, all of a sudden African Americans, which made up 58% of the state population, status quo held, but the population was growing. 1920 came along. People began asking, is the 1895 Constitution, that's 25 years old at that time, do we need to redo this? It was 25 years old. And they're saying, do we need to have a relook? 1895 to 1920, the world had changed. America had changed. South Carolina had changed. Those calls grew extensively by the mid 20th century. In 1966, the election, again, 1895, we're still operating under that. Now it's 1966, 58 years ago. By the 1966 election, 330 constitutional amendments had been passed. There was a study committee created about that time. The General Assembly said in 1966, hey, we want you to get together, evaluate the necessity of revision. So they started complaining 25 years after the 1895 Constitution, but it took another 66 years for things to get started. So in 1969, 3 years after they decided, well, let's take a look at it. 1969, the study, made its report to the General Assembly. The result was proposals of 17 new sections or articles to be in alignment of the original 17 articles of the 1895 Constitution. Now, these went to the voters, and out of that came 5 revised articles that were approved by the voters in 1970 and ratified in 1971. Now we're all the way into the 70s. And 5 of the 17, they decided they could ratify. In 1972, voters did approve 7 more articles. So the Constitution today, any constitutional changes that have been talked about have been slowed. Pump the brakes, they've been slowed down. Article 3 regarding the legislative branch has never been revised since 1895 writing of the South Carolina Constitution. It is now 2024, and the legislative branch is still operating under 1895 writings. So 1992 comes along. Now we're getting close to present day. It's hard to imagine that that's like 30 plus years ago. 1992, a piece of legislation was introduced to propose a constitutional referendum to restructure state government to limit South Carolina's bureaucracy, the state government, to 15 agencies, just 15. That did not pass. That did not pass what they call the litmus test of the General Assembly. But a year later, in 1993, they did pass something that, check this out, combined more than 6 dozen agencies, that's 72, last count, into 11 agencies run by the governor and 6 agencies with gubernatorial influence. Obviously, the oversight was the legislative branch, but the governor had gubernatorial influence. And here is where we are today. The South Carolina Constitution has arguably one of the most heralded histories in the United States. Does it need a makeover? Absolutely. Again, we're dealing with 1895 facts, historical documents. We are in a different place. Do we have the political willpower to do it? I really don't know. I honestly don't know. Hopefully sometime we will, but I'm hesitant to say yes. The South Carolina Constitution can be broke down like this. It is a book that the next chapter has not been published yet.
All the wickedness and filth this world has to offer.
Rock music that shatters your bones. Big Patriot Radio.
That's some serious rock.
And you're responsible.
It is coming up on 7:15 here on a Thursday in Beaufort County's House of Cards. I want to talk to you about, and again, we've got a special guest coming in, Bluffton Town Council candidate Emily Vox Burden will be here. Wednesday, just yesterday, was a long, hot, and contentious day in the South Carolina House. Debate started early, noonish, I guess you could say, on House Bill 4624. Some folks call it the transgender bill. Some folks call it the Protect the Children bill, whatever. And it went on late into the evening. I have some observations to make about this. This bill, among a lot of bills that are out there, is very, very important. So I want you to take notes and I want you to follow along. If you have questions, put them in the comment section, your chat bar, what have you. And we have that active on Twitter now. So all the Twitter trolls that are seeing this, feel free to chime in. Anyway, observations to make about House Bill 4624, the transgender bill, or the Keep Children Safe bill. Number one, this bill is a good bill. This bill would prohibit children, from 0 to 18, from receiving puberty blockers, transgender surgeries, chemical castrations, and medical mutilations. All, here's the kicker, all without the advice and consent of the parent or the guardian. That's right. You heard me right. This bill would prevent that. Number two, some of the amendments were good. Some, personally, I felt were not great, but I understood them. Most amendments were generally arguments from the Freedom Caucus members who wanted to get things to this or in this bill amended that would enhance it, in my opinion. It wasn't trying to tear it down. They were trying to enhance it. This argument was between the Freedom Caucus and the establishment GOP. You could call them the liberal conservatives of the state house, generally speaking. Leader Davey Hyatt, who leads that troop, was very vocal in his opinions. Understood, and I understand it, but that doesn't mean I agree with it. What I didn't like was not only from the Democrats, but also a lot of these elitist liberal Republicans in the House. Their theatrics was on display. I'll give them an A for effort. But it was on full display. I didn't like the theatrics that turned into not just debate, but it turned into attacks. Rather, I don't want to say violent attacks, but rather serious attacks on some of those in the Freedom Caucus, with the exception of Adam Morgan, Jordan Pace, R.J. May, Josiah Magnuson to some point. Most of the rest, and not all, spoke. These folks who were attacking them all happened to be lawyer legislators. People like Micah Caskey, Wooten, Rutherford, John King, Ott. The list goes on. These lawyer legislators who, Gil Gadge. Theatrics is a part of that business in law, especially those who, do criminal law, the whole, defense, plaintiff, defendant, the whole thing. Theatrics is a part of their business. I get it. I understand that. This was not the place for that. So, I felt sorry for a couple of them because that's not their line of work. Being attacked like that by theatrical lawyer legislators, you've really got to have, and I'm not saying that none of those men or women don't have a stiff upper lip, as they used to call it, or a leather neck, but you have got to assert that. I would, for one, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm not anywhere near a lawyer, but I would love the opportunity to debate somebody like Todd Rutherford or Micah Caskey or Ott or John King, any of those, Gil Gadge. I would love the opportunity to debate them because the theatrics would get shut down because I would put it right back on them. Anyway, that's not about me. Yeah, I'd made a note that I would relish that, and that's true. Number 3, another observation is that the Democrat Party in the House, and hey, if you can, slip a text to your neighbor and let them know about this. This stuff is really important, and what we talk about tonight is going to be really, really important as we hope to bring our guest on here shortly. Third observation: the Democrat Party in the House honestly believes, we heard it yesterday, honestly believes that for children from 0 to 18, children, it's okay for them to decide if they want to transition to another, we'll call it gender. It's okay for them. They've made that very apparent that it is okay, that they can do that. And if they don't want to tell their parents, That's okay too. That is what they're saying. Now, the Republican Party, even those mainstreamers, they weren't saying that at all. Don't get me wrong. The Democrats who spoke they hate this bill. They believe that kids, they have a right to decide if they want to transition. And if doctors want to prescribe puberty blocker medication, if doctors want to prescribe chemical castration medicines, or perform, medical mutilation type surgeries that could and would cause catastrophic, lifelong problems for these children without parental advice and consent, to the Democrats is perfectly okay. That's what they're saying from yesterday. The Democrats would say, we're all here for kids, and we believe the kids need to have a voice. I'm sorry. I don't buy that. And they tried to turn it on the Republican side of the House by saying, you don't want big government. You want them out of your life, but then you're saying the government's going to control. That's a sit and spin technique that is sophomoric. And good try, but that's ridiculous. These are children. How anyone could sit there and think that a 5-year-old has the mental acuity, the mental knowledge and maturity to decide that they can become chemically castrated or medically mutilated, to think they can transition from Bobby to Betty without mommy and daddy knowing, which blows my mind. They think that's okay. Number 4, our guest is in the green room back there having some, it's a out of town kind of thing. We got ice water back there in the green room, sweet tea, and special Mike Covert brownies. So that's all back there. She's enjoying that. We'll get to her in shortly. Number 4, another observation, and it's directly tied to the previous. And you're going to hear more about this shortly. One of the candidates for Bluffton Town Council actively promotes that, what I just told you, Democrat Party aspersion. That's right. Now, this isn't something that somebody told me about, or somebody sent me a message about, or my uncle's brother's son's sister's girlfriend. No, this is something that Mike Covert saw with his own 2 eyes and his own 2 ears. And I've been watching it. Yesterday, candidate for Bluffton Town Council, Emily Mayer, was inside the State House during the entire debate into the evening, sending out tweets and other social media, whatever you call it, about her support for children getting transitioned. She's putting it out there that she supports teachers keeping information from parents, from doctors, and according to her tweets and her retweets and her other posts, parents don't have a right to be notified. And she wants to be on town council? You have to laugh. You have to laugh. We'll talk more about that shortly.
Everything that rocks is right here. Right here.
Let's rock.
With Patriot Radio.
That's what I'm talking about.
That is what I'm talking about. I tell you. Hey, don't forget, we're going to bring our guest on here. Put your comments. Let me hear what you have to say about Emily Mayer. I just loaded you up with enough information to really keep you for the next week. Not only is the House full of Democrats who don't think children parents don't have a right to know. That whole thing. Now we got somebody running for office here locally, even though it's got nothing to do with their office, but supporting this trash. Anyway, I'm going to bring in our guest for tonight, candidate for Bluffton Town Council. She is a lifelong Bluftonian, a business owner. I want you to please welcome to the show Emily Vox-Burden to Beaufort's House of Cards. Hey, Emily.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Hey, welcome. We're very excited to have you and to hear from you. I actually had the entire show written. Yesterday came about, and I had to throw it away with what happened yesterday with listening to ad nauseum state house information. But anyway, we're excited to have you.
Thank you.
I gave the viewers a quick kind of intro about you, but please, in your own words, tell us all about Emily Burden.
Okay, Emily Burden. I've been married to my husband, Chris, for almost 19 years. He is from Hilton Head. We met at College of Charleston. We have 4 children.
Oh, I think I may have lost her. Let's see if we can get her back on here. Emily, can you hear me? Give us just a second. We'll see what's going on. Hey, Mary, how are you? Mary Vox Hayes. Good to, yep, she is. If somebody could maybe let Emily know, I guess her internet is hung. You all can obviously hear me. Hey, Mary. Hey, T. Mom's out there. Elizabeth, how are you? We'll get her back on here. Maybe she's got to do like what I call I don't want to name the internet company, but we'll just call it the H-Team reset. I think we all know what that's about. So we'll get her back on here shortly. I tell you, I'm sure those of you on here that know me well know that there are a few things that get me really into orbit. And when you start messing with our greatest resource, our greatest possession, our greatest prize, our greatest gift from God, a child, when you mess with a child, I become apoplectically pissed off. My wife is much more professional about it than am I, but I will tell you, and I relish, I hope, and I'll have to look here in a minute and see who's watching, but I hope some of those state house Democrats are watching because they need to know this. Okay, let's bring her back on here. There she is. All right, I can't hear you. I think you're muted, maybe. Still can't hear you. There you go. I think I hear you.
Okay. Sorry.
That's
so
okay.
I have 4 children. I have 4 children. I own a small business, Gigi's, a women's clothing store on Calhoun Street. We opened in 2008 and survived the recession and COVID and raising kids and all of that. As you said, I am born and raised in Bluffton. I was born in the early 80s. I'll give away my age. And, back then we had our one grocery store and a handful of restaurants. And, it looks a lot different than it does now. We did have to, we sat in traffic still. I could tell you, we drove to Hilton Head for middle school and high school because we didn't have one back then. So we certainly sat in traffic every day. And when we had to go work our jobs on Hilton Head, we did that as well. But I went to College of Charleston. I have a degree in economics. After that, my husband and I lived in Colorado for 6 years where I worked in finance and then the baking industry. I'm a numbers girl. I like math and spreadsheets and all of that kind of stuff. And then after we had our second child in 2010, we moved back. Thankfully, we had a break in his job where we could move back to Bluffton. We always knew we wanted to move back and raise our children here. And so we, thankfully, we were able to do that. And I guess that's me in a quick snapshot.
There you go. Awesome. And I tell you, my wife had made a comment. I don't know if you can see the comments. Let me see. Usually I put these up on the screen.
Oh, okay. There we
you
go.
go. Yeah. We love
I always
Gigi's.
apologize to the husbands. I'm sorry in advance.
No, don't apologize. Let me just say this. I really am glad that all of my kids, I have 4 daughters. I'm glad they're all grown. And they have to buy their own clothes. But they love Gigi's and they look good in everything that they buy. But enough about that. And I want everyone to know, especially because of what's going on, I want everyone to know that all candidates, even back during the general election, all candidates for every race have all been invited. For the past few weeks, obviously, Mrs. Burton has been invited. Ms. Mayer has been invited. Actually, I've invited her 3 times. She has, to this point, obviously chosen to ignore the offer, and that's fine. But I do want everyone to know that everyone is invited and everyone is given the same amount of time. All right, Emily, I want to be cognizant of your time and respectful of that. Everyone, Emily, everyone knows your family is not new to politics and legal. You know, your father, a great man. I love him. Long-time lawyer. I want to say like 50 years he's been a lawyer. Is that right?
He started his law firm in Bluffton in the 70s. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I know.
Anyway, 50-year local lawyer. Your brother now runs this show. He served with me on county council. Now you're the one getting into the fray, as they call it. What gave you the push, if you will, to run for town council?
Like you said, you know, my family's been around. I never know when people say, I know your dad and your brother, them being lawyers, I never know whether to apologize or if they're going to say something. I mean, truly, I grew up with, I know your dad. And I said, I don't know if that's a good thing or if I need to apologize. So they've been around for a while. But and Tabor definitely talked to me before when I was talking to him that I really thought I was going to do this, which, to be honest, I didn't even tell them. I did not tell my dad or my brother for a while. It was something that I've really been praying about for a while. I felt for a few years that I would do this at some point. And then last spring, when I really started praying about it, I had to make my own decision before I could even get outsider opinions. And so then I told them, and Tabor definitely made sure I knew what I was getting into before I committed. But you know, I'm doing this because I love Bluffton so much and I care about our future. I'm never going to leave this town. And I know that at least a couple of my children, if not all, will stay in this town. But it's such a special place. And I truly just love it that much that I have felt like this is something I've been called to do, to give back, to serve, to help, to work hard. You know, I think I can bring some good common sense solutions and just listening to people. And so the simple answer is I just, you know, I want, my goal is to make Bluffton or to keep Bluffton, leave it a better place for the next generation. Truly.
Awesome.
I know.
Awesome.
I mean, it's not, you know,
awesome.
I don't have this great long answer. It's just because I love this town so much.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. Emily, town council has a lot of work before it in 2024. You know, some people are already looking towards 2025, especially when you start talking about finances and budgets and things like that. What are some of your goals, you know, coming into 2024 when you are town councilwoman? What are some of your goals for that?
I mean, I think I would say my main goal is just to protect and maintain our quality of life. And so there's a lot that's going to fall under that. Managing growth, improving our river quality, traffic, affordable housing. I mean, I would love to see the town buy more green space, affordable housing, you know, just helping increase our police department. So I think just, you know, really that quality of life. But like I said, so much does fall under that.
Awesome. You know, when you get into government, well, let's take a step back. We'll talk about management. a excellent piece of management skill is cohesiveness. Management or leadership is getting a group of people together to do good work. They have to be cohesive. However, when you get into politics, sometimes cohesiveness can lead people in the electorate, those of us not in office, in having a lot. And we see this more and more. We see it today on the television ad nauseum. We see people having a lot of questions about transparency. Do you believe that town council members must always be in 100% lockstep agreement on things coming in front of you to vote on, as quite frankly, some before you have done?
I do not. I mean, I think it's always important to be respectful of other people, but I think it's more important to stand up for and to vote the way that you feel best, that's best for the town and your constituents, and not, I'd rather be a lone vote, to be honest. I'm not going to be afraid to vote for what I feel is the right thing to do.
Bonus question.
Okay.
If you're elected, when you're elected, are you going to be Emily Burden, town councilwoman for the town of Bluffton, or are you Emily Burden, town councilwoman for the people of Bluffton?
I mean, I want to represent all the people of Bluffton.
Woo! Right answer, ladies and gentlemen. A piece of unsolicited advice, and your brother and I feel actually, and I will give him the credit because he's the lawyer and he was there before me. But piece of advice: it is okay when you're at that dais or the committee meeting to vote the way you feel, the way your constituents feel, and be passionate. And some of those debates can be sometimes a little tense. They don't call politics a blood sport for nothing. But when that meeting is over, and your brother and I used to do this, we would leave, and sometimes he and I would have some pretty tough conversations. But we would leave the building, stop and have a beer or a Coke or whatever, hamburger on the way home, and life goes on. That just an unsolicited piece of advice. Take it on.
No, I think what you said is important. I mean, even though y'all didn't always agree or get along, I think you both respected each other and worked well together. And I think that's important, even when you don't necessarily agree with,
Absolutely. This seat, like every other municipal election in the state of South Carolina that I'm aware of, is nonpartisan. Now, you may have heard me talk about before I brought you on, as of late yesterday, your opponent was posting very, very liberal and Marxist-esque, as I put it here, platforms regarding House Bill 4624. You can call it the transgender bill or the Protect the Children bill, whatever. Your opponent from inside of the State House, as I'm watching this and listening to this and reading this, was posting on social media her position to support defeating this bill, which would have given the approval for children. The viewers heard this from 0 to 18, the ability to be prescribed and take puberty blockers, be chemically castrated, have medical mutilated surgeries, all without the advice and approval of their parents. The crux of that is this: while this subject has absolutely zero, and I know you know this, to do with municipal politics in the town of Bluffton, and the subject, I mean, you have nothing to do with that, but it is everything to the people who vote, because we vote along moral lines too. That means something to people still. Do you support your opponent's view of killing House Bill 4624, allowing all those, in my opinion, dreadful things to happen? Again, as she stated, I didn't make it up, as she stated in her social media posts.
This is a tough question, but I mean, as you stated, this bill obviously has nothing to do with our local government or this election. I want to point out that, obviously my opponent has run a very clean race, and I want to applaud her for that.
Absolutely.
That was my goal as well. So I am thankful for that. And so I don't want to speak anything about her and her beliefs or opinions or anything like that. And
my
then
question
also
is about you.
With regard to the bill, like, I haven't read it, so I can't speak in entirety. I've seen headlines, I've seen news, but I have not read the bill. So I don't think that I can also speak on the bill. But let me answer this question. Do I believe that minors should be allowed to have sex changing surgeries? My answer is no. I do not believe that that is okay. And I don't, because my faith and my relationship with Jesus Christ is the most important thing to me. It is the most important thing to my life. And then my family comes next. I believe what the Bible says is truth, and I stand by that.
Fantastic. And again, I don't want people to think I'm jumping down her throat, but it's important, as I'm getting ready to say to you, because residents in this town need to know. We need to know the moral makeup of people. And when somebody, not that yours is in question, I'm not saying that, but because that was such a drastic position to take, it's fair for someone to say, well, what do you think about that? So anyway, moving forward, again, this position is nonpartisan, but do you consider yourself more conservative in values or more liberally progressive in values?
I mean, like you said, this is a nonpartisan election. I think that is important to stress. I do believe that I have supporters on both sides. And I think that I can represent all people well, no matter where you fall, political views. That being said, I am conservative. So I will come out and tell you that. But I want to stress that I want to represent all sides in this nonpartisan race.
Wonderful. We're going to change topics. First of all, I've had a couple of texts from some current Beaufort County Council members. Vaguely, I'll just put this in my own words. They're impressed with you, and it's been 20 minutes, if that, and they both look forward to working with you. That, Emily, is wow. Let me just say wow. All right. Town of Bluffton has gone, it's grown over the last few decades. I don't know the exact date, but it was from 1 square mile, I know when I got here 30 years ago, to now 54, 55 square miles. The heavy lift in growth in the town of Bluffton is quote unquote outside the city limits. Outside the Old Town District limits, into the Buckwalter Parkway area, which is designated as a new town center. And also in the New Riverside, Pritchardville parts of the county that are town of Bluffton. How will you keep the people who don't live in the Old Town District, who, quite frankly, at times have felt, I'm in the in the town of Bluffton, but I don't feel a part of it. How will you keep those folks? Let's just say the Pritchardville, the New Riverside, the Buckwalter Parkway. How will you keep those town residents involved in town government?
Well, I think a few ways. I mean, one, I'm going to be honest. So much of my life every day is I'm surrounded by these residents that live in all the areas you said, through kids' activities, sports. I see them at work all the time. I mean, most of the people that I'm surrounded by are the newer residents, people that have just moved here. And so I think I talk to them and hear their feedback and just listen to them on a regular basis. I do think that the town tried to start town halls last year, where whatever town leaders could go, including the police chief and the town manager, to the different communities where people could come out and ask questions. And I hope that continues. I think that's very important. I would encourage anyone interested in getting involved. I mean, there's plenty of committees that you can apply to be on. I know that I've had siblings on these different committees, even though they don't technically live in the town. So I think there's plenty of great ways that you can still get involved, have your voice heard. But also, I mean, I think it's great that we have seen people from these different areas, try to run for political office, and some have gotten elected at different times throughout the years, and some haven't. I mean, and so I think it's really up to the people who they vote in, that they feel that they can best represent you. But I'm not sure it needs to necessarily be just, I think it's people needs to vote who they think can best represent them, not necessarily based on where they live, but just the best candidate.
Okay. Another changing the gears. Currently, the town of Bluffton owns 2 or 3 roads, maybe 4. Maybe it's 3 or 4 roads. Do you believe, and the rest of the roads are either county roads or state roads, do you believe it's time for the town to take over currently county-owned roads that are inside the town's jurisdiction? And I'm going to just say, to possibly deliver better road system, more control over the road system for residents, businesses, and tourists?
I mean, it's something that I would definitely listen to and talk to. I mean, off the cusp, I don't see the benefit for the town residents. It just seems that it would be a pretty high tax burden on the town of Bluffton residents. And I'm not sure I would see the benefit.
Perfect. And folks, if you have questions for Emily, hopefully you'll take
Absolutely.
those questions.
Yes.
Please put them in your chat bar. We see Barry. It's good to see Barry. Very smart lady. Yes, Barry, you are correct.
Thank you, Barry.
We had Mayor now Mayor Toomer. We had him on here during the general election. Great show. He talked about the sewer improvements to existing drain fields and septic systems in the primarily the Stony Creek area. And that's fantastic. Councilman Hamilton and I worked together to kind of get that ball rolling back in like 17. Anyway, there are still, when that is completed, whenever that's completed, there will still be areas in the town limits that will still not have public sewer. Do you have any interest or plans on trying to get the remainder of the town off septic systems and onto public sewers for the simple reason of protecting the May River watershed and the Ocoee River watershed?
I mean, I think protecting our river, we need to do whatever we can for that. And so, the town is currently getting those on near the river on sewer. We are one of those that they started working on our road this summer sometime. And so we are converting to sewer as a lot of residents. And I know, the town has a contract with the county and the Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority to do the rest of the homes on the river to get connected, which I think is a great partnership, and I think it is very important. And so I think that we need to continue trying to get all residents on the town or on sewer. And so I definitely think continuing that project is very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with the monies, and the town was very smart in this, Emily. They applied for a plethora of grants, mainly from the state, some from the federal government, actually, but mainly the state in Low Country Council of Governments, LCOG, as you'll hear it, that, the tax burden, no pun intended, the tax burden will not be felt by the taxpayer on this for the mainline installations. All right. You mentioned police. We had Police Chief Babkowitz on a couple weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago. One of the topics we talked about was crime, oddly enough, in the town and the surrounding area. Major crime has been a big topic in the end of 2023 and throughout 2024. Unless someone has been living under a rock, crime, even murders The drastic M word has been in the headlines. Now, granted, some of the murders that I'm speaking of happened in the county's jurisdiction. However, it's still in Greater Bluffton. Okay, murders don't know jurisdiction, so to speak. The police department needs the full, and this is my opinion, the full and unwavering support of town council. I believe I know the answer to this, but I want to get some context to it. Do you pledge to support the law enforcement, police, and provide the needed resources to fight and especially prevent not just major crime, but crime in general?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't answer this one strong enough. I think it is of the utmost importance to give our police department all the resources that they need to address and fight crime. I want us to have the highest safety standards. But that being said, crime knows no boundaries. And so I think it's extremely important for the town, the police department, to work with the other local jurisdictions on this issue. But I would love to see more patrolling, more police presence. And so my answer is absolutely, whatever we can do for the police department.
So speaking of law enforcement, if you, in a meeting, in a committee, in a whatever, if someone on town council, one of your colleagues, made it known that they wanted to begin the process of lowering the financial funding of law enforcement, and again, we hear that ad nauseum, not as much today as we did like a couple years ago, but it's still there. Lowering the financial funding of law enforcement here in Bluffton in order to have, as they've done in other cities and other states, that has been a total flop, to have more mental health counselors. Would you support that?
I would not support anything to take away funds from our police department. So I could not support that. That being said, I'm happy to listen and talk to if we need some mental health counselors, but I wouldn't do it by taking away money from the police department.
Viewer Kate Creech, I think hopefully you can see that on your screen, has a comment along these lines. Other than amping up our police force, how do you feel about public health officers that can de-escalate a situation?
I think whatever we can do, police force, public health officers, I think anything we can do to provide the highest safety standards to our citizens is of our utmost importance.
And just for clarity, so I don't want to get in the record, my question was not to amp up the law enforcement, it was to fully fund. Would you be in favor of defunding if that's where that came from? So I alluded to a moment ago, and thank you, Kate, for your question. I alluded to a moment ago that there are many areas of the town of Bluffton, and for those people who have been here less than 5 minutes, you've heard this. Many areas of the town of Bluffton, southern Beaufort County, that leapfrog or cross over back and forth, creating the infamous donut hole. You may travel down, practically any road almost in Bluffton in southern Beaufort County and go from the county to the town to the county to the town 3 or 4 or more times. And when you go to these different parts of the town, the county, the town, the county, that's jurisdictional lines, police, water or the stormwater, trash, stuff like that. Are you committed to working with or beginning the serious conversation with the town and the county council to possibly close in these donut holes and provide some sort of symmetry to the residents and businesses? And before you answer that, when I say symmetry and closing in these donut holes, this is where government and the citizens and businesses differ completely. In politics, houses cost money, costs the government money. Businesses and industry make them money. There's no secret with that. If you look at these donut holes, it's mainly rooftops, but it's the citizens and business owners that are suffering through these jurisdictional boondoggles. Is that something you're interested in working to finally, and we've been talking about it ad nauseum for years, finally get those closed up for symmetry?
That's an important question, and one you hear all the time. People don't understand it, especially people that have moved here from other areas. I think those that have watched it happen over the years, we kind of knew what was going on. But in the state of South Carolina, towns cannot approach residents about being annexed in. The residents of that neighborhood, or if a resident wants to, they have to approach the town. And so if residents want to be annexed into the town, I think that is important to talk about, and I would be all for it. It is quite confusing with all the donut holes. A lot of them, obviously still use our parks and our roads and all of those things, but it's not something that we can request. It's something that they have to.
Sure. All right, let's go to the other side of town, out in New Riverside. That portion of the town is exploding with growth. Some of the growth is not new per se. The actual vertical growth is new, but some development agreements were put into place 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades ago, whatever. A lot of people don't understand that's the land's already been sold. It's already been, the DA is already written. With that in mind, what can the town council do to help ease the burden on existing residents of this people explosion and the highway count cars explosion?
I mean, this is a difficult subject, and again, one that you hear often, because unfortunately, not sure it was planned correctly. I think if maybe our leaders that, put these development or agreed to these development plans 20 years ago knew what was going to happen, it would be done differently. Certainly in certain areas like at Heritage at New Riverside, I mean, they have, 2 access points both on 46, but if there's an accident or something, they have no other way to get out besides going all the way around to Hardyville. And so it's not going to be an easy fix for sure. But I've sat with many residents out there and will continue. I have many meetings next week with them. I want to hear from them. I want to hear some of their ideas. I want them to know that I'm listening to them. And I think it's important when it comes to traffic. It's going to be extremely important to be able to work with our county and state leaders in order for solutions. And with the traffic, there's going to be some, maybe some short-term, possibly common sense solutions in my mind that I'd love to just drive around with the county engineer and just talk through some of this at rush hour, because I don't understand why it's certain, talking speed limits, talking the timing of stoplights. I know that they have plans to put in some new stoplights and things like that, and looking at other circles. I mean, they have engineers that they pay tons of money, and this is something they're working on. But then, there's talks, and they are analyzing whether to propose a penny sales tax for to go towards traffic that would potentially be on the ballot this November. And I think that that's going to be important, because these roads cannot get fixed and solutions cannot happen without more money. Unfortunately, I wish that wasn't the case, but it just is. And, we had the penny sales tax, the last one for traffic, which, we're not paying for anymore, but that the money used for that expanded 278. It built the parkway. It took 278 out to exit 8. Now, if we look back and that wasn't done, I couldn't even imagine what our traffic would be like at the moment. So thankfully that did get approved and all those happened. And I think that is the scenario we are in now. Yes, we need some immediate stuff. And unfortunately, building roads and all of that, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But I would really love to just talk about some short-term solutions that we can potentially to alleviate some of the some of the traffic pressure, but it's not an easy answer. I sit in it with y'all. I have to, most days I'm unfortunately, picking up a child at 5 o'clock, sitting in traffic, and I have to leave 10, 15 minutes early because I don't know if it's going to take me 60 seconds to get out of my road or if I'm going to sit there for 5 or 7 minutes. So I feel you, I hear you, I sit in it with you, and I would love to come up with some different solutions for this.
All right. It's the top of the hour. Let's take a quick commercial break. You're watching Buford's House of Cards right here on the Big Patriot Radio Network.
Your rock authority. Big Patriot Radio.
I wouldn't tell anybody about this.
Emily, I've talked to quite a few business owners over the years and compiled notes and more copious notes. And the overriding the subject is business licensing, not only in the town and the county and the state, but just in general. Keeping it back down to the town level, their feelings from at least people I've talked to have said that Bluffton's business licensing is now becoming especially expensive. And I heard terms of out of control, which I don't really believe that, but becoming more and more expensive. I hear the terms driving mom and pop out of Bluffton, things like that. Do you have an opinion of either curtailing the business license fees or lowering them or reviewing them, coming up with something else? Services have to be paid for. I'm there with you. But because the town puts so much on the backs of business, some business owners are feeling not pinched, but choked. What's your feeling about that?
My feeling on that is I have only honestly heard that from maybe 2 businesses. And being a small business owner, I feel like I talk to other mom and pops on a regular basis. So I would really love to sit down with a few more throughout the community to hear what they're saying, because I just haven't heard that, to be honest, very often. I've heard that the startup of applying and getting it going has gotten complicated, which again, I did mine 16 years ago. So I need to learn more about the process now and if it's really changed. But as far as, and I think what type of business you're in, you pay different business license fees. And so for us, I know I can speak for me as a retail store. I fill out a 1-page sheet once a year. It is not a big deal to fill out the form. And then my fees, I personally do not feel are unreasonable for us, for our side. Now, again, that is a retail store. It's not a restaurant. It's not a restaurant that sells alcohol, and it's all different. And so it's something that I feel like I would love to just sit down with some small business owners in different fields of the community and just research a little bit more.
I'll have to say that, and I should have prefaced this, the majority that I talked to were, service providers or in the construction industry, where they have to have licenses in every single jurisdiction. And I give the example that we used to have licenses it was like 24 different business licenses. That's a state issue. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And then I talked to some restaurants. So just to preface that.
Okay.
Switch gears, and we're almost through. We're turning out of turn 4. One of the many things that I did while in office was working with some folks in Washington, oddly enough, on elimination of the explosion of new taxes from all walks of life. So think of new taxes. One of the things that I was able to do was with the Americans for Tax Reform, I believe it was, I took an oath that said, and I lived by it then, and I still live by this today, that I would never approve any new tax or taxes that didn't eliminate or remove one or more taxes that was equal to or greater than in value of what's being proposed. Hence, a true no new tax performance. And that may not be on the dais all the time for you all. Hypothetically speaking, is that something you can commit philosophically to?
I mean, I wouldn't want to commit to anything, but I can tell you my goal is to not raise taxes. My goal is to keep taxes low. But I mentioned this penny sales tax for the roadways, and to me, I don't know how it's an important one. Now that would, assuming it got passed in November, it would go into effect in 25, and so it could raise our sales tax from 7 to 8. Now, that being said, the middle of 25 is expected that the green space penny sales tax would come off to bring us back to 7. But I just don't want to commit to anything and not be able to follow through. I just feel like there are probably too many what ifs, but I can tell you that's my goal. That is my hope. And I will do whatever I can to make that happen.
So you consider yourself a no new tax kind of philosophy?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Viewer Katie Creech, I believe it is, another question. How do you feel about residential versus commercial development, specifically regarding the needs of the quote unquote new side of town? And I believe that's the new Riverside, Pritchardville, and some of Buckwalter. That's like the new part of Bluffton. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think we can all agree that our residential development has increased significantly over the years. Our infrastructure has not had time to catch up, and neither has commercial, just because commercial lags behind residential typically. I mean, I would love to see, that being said, 92% of Bluffton is under these development plans that cannot be changed. I mean, they are contracts between the developer and do about those, except, potentially buying anything, buying some of the green space in that. I'd like the town's economic development ordinance that they put into place, where they are trying to incentivize commercial essential needs, essential service providers on the west side of town in, the new Riverside area. I like to say that we're all one Bluffton and one community. So I'll say the new Riverside area. I think that's a great idea. Hopefully it could get some people off of the roads, give them doctors and dentists and coffee shops and restaurants and all of those things. And so I think that was a smart move on the town's part.
Emily, how can people get in touch with you? Your campaign, your campaign, and when is the election? Oh, yes. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate. I agree. We are all in this together. I completely agree with you.
How can people get in touch with you as we go forward?
So the election is February 13th, and early voting will start January 29th. That'll run for 2 weeks. You can find me. You can get in touch. I'll put up my little email. There we go. burdenforbluffton@yahoo.com or my website. I will be in quite a few of the different gated communities and walking around some of the non-gated. I'm happy to come meet with anybody. I'm really just trying to get in front of as many people I can, give you a chance to meet me, ask me any questions you have, because I want you to feel comfortable with who you're voting for.
Emily Burden, thank you for coming on the show. You're a gracious guest. You're always welcome here.
Thank you,
at any time. Best of luck in the election, ladies and gentlemen. Emily Burden, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Locked and loaded.
Let's go.
Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
All right, it is 10 after the top of the hour. Kate, there's been some confusion about early voting. Is it correct that early voting will be at the Bluffton Rec Center? Great question. And as far as I know, the answer is yes, and would only be at the Bluffton Rec Center. Or, of course, you can go to John Galt Road in Beaufort. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but, you could. And voting is based on precinct. That is correct. We've got Mary Vox Hayes. Great job. Way to go, sis. And hopefully candidate Emily Meyer, however you pronounce it, will join us prior to the election again. The offer's out there, same amount of time. I will give her the same questions. Everyone's treated equally here at the House of Cards. All right. Now, lastly, I want to turn your attention to some local business. 2024, big election year, not only here locally, not only in South Carolina, but yes, all over the country. You need to get involved. This is one of those times where I want you to sit back and think, how can I get involved? And there are some of you that will say, man, I don't like speaking in public. No problem. However you can, just get involved. Just ask. You want to send letters or postcards or emails? There's a place for you to do that. You want to make phone calls? Everyone needs phone banks. There's a place to do that. And you can, be someone else. You want to speak in public? There are some people who like doing that. We need people like that. You want to help elect real conservatives? Local, that is definitely needed. However, whatever is your thing, you need to get involved, because not getting involved gives you you can't say anything when everything turns sour. I'll start asking questions of elected officials. Why are we spending more and more? Why are we continuing to spend? We don't have a tax problem in South Carolina. We have a spending problem. That's it. We have a spending problem. That kind of question has to be asked. If you're in the town of Bluffton, the town of Port Royal, the county, wherever, if you feel that the budgets are bloated, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Councilwoman, why are we spending so much? What are you eliminating to downsize? Let's see. What elected officials? Here's another one. What elected officials have you reached out to, voted for, reached out to, and have said, hey, we'll vote for laws that protect children in schools? Have any of them said that to you? Ask them. Hey, will you vote to protect children from lewd and vulgar material? Will you protect children from this transgender, mutilation and chemical castration that, thank God, just got passed? If they say no, ask them why. What elected officials are willing to change our election system? Just today, I heard this today. It was reported that the state of Virginia, the Secretary of State, is reporting that they found 4,000 votes. They were misplaced from the last election. When these things are Democrat or Republican, independent, blue, green, red, whatever, that doesn't matter. If your elected official, let me tell you, believes that our system we are using if they believe how we're doing it is good, ask them, how do you figure that? We have no paper record. There are parts of the Constitution that talk about paper records. We have none. Now, one state legislator told me, oh, you're wrong there, because we do have a paper, it's a receipt that you get. Well, no, you don't get it. But if you were to get it, it has a barcode on it. I don't know about anybody watching this, but I don't know how to read a damn barcode. There is no paper ballot. Simply put, our election system is broken. Now, everyone who watches this and has been with us since the beginning knows what happened, not just with me, but also with Tab Tabernick. That was horrendous. It was horrendous for me. It was horrendous for her. It's more horrendous that the public didn't get to vote. That's tragic. And it's because of our machines. We saw the machines be fixed via Wi-Fi. That's not supposed to be able to happen. It did. It does. They do. This isn't a conspiracy. This isn't some wacko theory. We have seen it. Ask what elected officials are concerned about and will stand up to make, get this, here's a novel idea. Let's make adoption easier in South Carolina. Let's make the resources for adoption easier, the red tape less for adoption. Let's give those children a home. Yes, the abortion, that whole argument, that debate is needed, absolutely. But do we have any elected officials that are going to turn their focus to the children who don't have a home? Adoption is a good thing. Does your elected leader think about that? Find out what elected officials have publicly stated and are willing to put up legislation to put a huge dent, I mean a huge dent, in the practice of human trafficking and drug trafficking. It's time to walk the walk. They've all talked the talk, but with human trafficking and drug trafficking, that portion, it's time to put up or shut up. That happens from the state level. Now, the local level, we need to make sure that our drug and alcohol abuse departments in the county are fully funded. They have everything they need to combat drug trafficking, drug abuse. Have you got the little bottle of naloxone? Have you been trained on that? Do you have one in case you're somewhere that someone is ODing on an opiate and may die, fentanyl or whatever? Check into that. Get trained. It takes like 10 minutes. Get trained. Carry one. There are Good Samaritan laws that cover you for stuff like that. Save a life, but it begins with the legislator walking the walk. Human trafficking is an enormous problem in South Carolina and right here in Beaufort County. It is huge. I appreciate the chief of police in Bluffton, who was very candid with his answers to a point. I fully respect that. The problem is real, people. The problem is real. Check out the voting records of your elected, the crews. Check out their election record. Town council, county council, school board, and the state house and state senate. We had a couple of comments before. Why do we need $1.6 billion from a 14% tax increase? I thought it was more than 14%, but maybe I'm not a math major either. But that's a great question all at once. And when I brought that up, thank you, Mike, was that we need to, instead of all at once going to the pot, it needed to be sorted out by specifics and by urgency. Kate Creech, again, let's feed the kids in public school summer programs. McMaster, one of 15 governors that voted against. State has to do better by our homeless. Those displays still deserve basic human decency. Great points. Let me address some of those. I had moved for and began to push, as I ended my time on county council, to help the private businesses or the private institutions create homeless shelters. Do you know how many qualified homeless shelters there are in Beaufort County? I don't mean pop-up churches. I don't mean that. The answer to that, I'll tell you, is zero. We have no homeless shelter, a traditional homeless shelter, certified, qualified, like the City Mission in Savannah, the Union Mission in Savannah, Parker's Kitchen, blah, 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 blah. That needs to be done. It's 2024. Bluffton, Hilton Head, Beaufort, it's time for a homeless shelter or two. We have, while I'm not a big proponent of the government paying for everything, I am a proponent of let's make it possible. Let's get rid of the red tape to make it happen. There's one young lady up in Beaufort. It's not a homeless shelter. It's a halfway house that I've helped. It's a good thing. It's a private business doing great things in the community and can do even more. Catherine, infrastructure no longer support the number of residents utilizing road sewage protection. You all can read this. Natural resources critical. Yeah, we need that. It does have to be paid. I would rather see it paid by tourists than opposed me and you and all the other residents. I would rather the tourists pay for the lion's share. I just am hesitant to do it via the most regressive way that may hurt all at one time the poorest among us. It just needs to be. It needs to be talked about some more. We can get there. We can get there. It does need to be done. We can get there. It's just how we do it. Back to what I was saying. It's now time. Right now, it's time that we stand up for constitutional conservative beliefs that, quite frankly, it's funny that, I believe, and most of you that I see on here share these feelings, believe that the left or the far left stomp on the constitutional values. I hear on TV, and I watch a lot of non-conservative news just so I can understand what they're doing. They're saying that conservatives stomp on the Constitution. It's a very warped time. And we've got to seek out those that can lead. Again, the definition of leadership is someone who can get a bunch of people together as a group and do good work. That's what leadership is all about. That's what has to happen. Irregardless of your political persuasion, everybody's got to come together and let's make it work. You got to get there. You got to have the leadership in charge to make this happen and make others give them the ability to do what it is they do. And as I put here, not only do I feel like the left stomps on them, there are some on the right. There are some on the right that do that as well. And I'll go into more of that. I think Kate was saying that there is one and Family Promise. Yes, you're right, but they aren't a homeless shelter certified. That's a great group. Love them, support them. But I'm with you, and yes, they will help. Absolutely, won't turn anyone away. They will help you. I'm thinking along the city union, the city mission, Parker's house, all that kind of stuff. But great ideas, Kate. Now is the time for those on the right. If you're a conservative, now is the time for you to say, no, we're done. If you are watching this and you're on the left and you feel like there are people on the left that are too far to the left, they need to come back. It's time for you to say, no, we're done with that. We can't continue that. We always say it. It's about the people, not the powerful. I made a comment a second ago about there are some on the right that do this. I'm going to look at it through the lens of watching the State House. Yes, there is a divide in the State House, the Republican Party, the GOP caucus, between the GOP and the Freedom Caucus, to be quite frank with you. There are multiple caucuses in both houses, both sides of the house. The Black caucus, the women's caucus, the men's caucus, the bald head guys, you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of caucuses, but the family caucus, but the Democrat caucus, the Republican caucus, and the Freedom Caucus are the three main ones. The Republican caucus kicked out those in the Freedom Caucus last year because they would not sign a pledge or an oath. Now, those in the Republican caucus have said, well, it's not a pledge, it's not an oath, it's just part of the system. I disagree with that. I've read it. It sounds like it smells like a fish, tastes like a fish. It's a fish. I wouldn't have signed it either. Because it says, you won't talk ill about anyone if you can't run against them. I mean, horse shit. That's crazy. That's crazy. Just because you are what you are, the go along to get along crowd. The Freedom Caucus has been attacked. Yesterday was a great example. When the House first came into session 8 days ago is another great example. The House Rules Committee, which, by the way, no one on the Freedom Caucus is allowed to participate in because they haven't been selected. The House Rules Committee put forward legislation to come onto the floor that has temporarily been timeout, big boy, that would eliminate the motion period. Okay. It would eliminate people other than you can put up to 5 amendments, anybody, but the House minority and the House majority can only put 12 of those up. And then they can put 1 each, which is a total of 26 amendments. I'm sorry, do I like, 1,000 amendments? No. Do some people use that as a tool? Sure they do. But 2 things. Legislation should be slow and deliberate. It's by the people, of the people, for the people. If you signed up to take this on, you've got to sit there, be willing to sit there as long as it takes to get it done. That's my opinion. For the House minority leader, the House majority leader, and the Speaker of the House and the House Rules chairwoman to put this legislation forth that would change the rules, eliminating, all of the 16 in the Freedom Caucus, anybody that they represent, your voice will not be heard. Point blank. And they want to get rid of the motion period. But the funny thing is they already have cloture, the cloture way of doing business. They can close it by invoking cloture. But they don't want to do that because they want to shut people out. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is mainly on the right of the right side, the GOP side of the South Carolina House. I hate it. It is what it is. The left enjoys watching us eat our own. They fight their own thing, but it is what it is. It's time we say no. All right. That's it for tonight. Don't forget to please check out our patreon.com, patreon.com/Buford House of Cards. You're going to see it scroll across the screen. We'd love to have you become a member. Help us out with whatever you can, whenever you can, until next week. And we'll be right back. Not here, but we'll be right back next week. And good night, America.
I got some money in my pocket, got some trouble on my tail. I can hear the dials and knocking, guess I'm heading off the rails, singing. I'm talking about you. I got some new best friends forever. See, I met them at the bar where the whiskey goes down better when it
Introducing to you.
You're on House of Cards. Live on Facebook and YouTube.
It's going down.
Locked and loaded with the truth.